yalonko akumayata hadamadingo la baluwo kono woto nga fale ko one stop solution ye ku kumayar mbale natale pour ka jisenengo soto e ka foy la bagasol milie ko RO system andum nying isa soto no 10 inch PP sediment filter e ka fumi ko fanan 10 inch GAC carbon filter 10 inch ECTO carbon filter dispensal fanan bijele pour jiolu ECTO carbon filter anin a jamalu nyin dispensalu ise ji kando fintindino ji sumuyarengo anin jome yalonko abe temale aman sumuya aman kande ye RO system ol fanan sotale 20 inch PP sediment filter 20 inch GAC carbon filter, 20 inch ECTO carbon filter, Alta One Stop Water Solutions jibe sign, Ibalie Independent Stadium Moto, Eka Fomi Eko Trade Fair, Ise Kumandino 355-1304, Niwonten 796-8272, One Stop Water Solution Limited, Clean Water.
Good morning, and you're watching QTV this morning. I am your host, Jenna Bosonko, joined by my co-host, Aliu Cisse. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. It's a pleasure to be back here.
Yes, sure. So, Aliu, today, as usual, we have the African proverb. We have the newspaper review. We're joined by our guest, Mahmoud Mbouj, to help us analyze some of the stories that we have on the papers, and to also further help us interpret our African proverb, which he enjoys. And also on Community Watch, if you've been following developments, you find out that the Q Group Foundation is offering full scholarships to students who intend to pursue a bachelor's degree in the sciences, which is STEM. And also on social issues, we'll be talking about the new Omicron coronavirus variant. We'll be taking a look at how prepared is Gambia. We'll have a representative from the Ministry of Health to take us through Gambia's preparedness in relation to the new Omicron variant. And we also have Lala Ture, Youth Participation in Democracy. She'll be here to take us through that. She's been championing a lot of activities when it comes to the involvement of young people in politics and just governance processes. And finally, Sports Wall will be joined by Adid Rami to take us through what is happening in the world of sports. So stay tuned. We have a packed
and yes, quite packed
program today.
Line up as far as this morning program is concerned. Thank you very much, Jenna. But like you said, I mean, the African proverb for today is it says, "He who thinks he is leading and has no one following him is only taking a walk." Mr. Mbouj, quite an interesting proverb here, right?
Yes.
He who thinks he is leading, but then and has no one following him is only taking a walk.
Yes, absolutely. Quite interesting there. And the first thing you notice is that what makes a leader is not the person saying it or behaving like that. You have to carry the people with you.
Sure.
So it is really the people who make leaders. As it were. That's the first thing obvious in this proverb.
Yeah, so it's the people who make the leaders, but it also takes something for the people to actually make you the leader. They have to see something. So for you, what are these things?
Oh, absolutely. Some people think that there are really three key elements in many ways. One, you should be able to inspire a people towards the fulfillment of certain objectives.
Sure.
As it were, I must be able to inspire people, and then we conceive on a project. There's a project, and then we try to get the right outcomes, all through inspiration and motivation. So these are some of the qualities one needs to have. And I've also heard, it was from Lee Kuan Yew describing what a leader should have, saying other things like he said, I've seen many leaders, political leaders, business leaders, and all sorts. Then he said, but what he noticed about them was that they had confidence. You must have huge confidence. And they had what he called a certain breadth of mind. You must really read a lot. You know, your imagination. You must really be worldly. You must know a lot of things. And you must also have that capacity, that ability to see the wood for the trees.
Yeah.
You know how to focus on the big things. Not be sort of distracted by small things. Some people are like that. They cannot see the wood for the trees. And finally, you must be a communicator.
Yeah.
You must be able to know what to communicate. So absolutely, that is it. Peopleness, the idea of people is at the very, very heart of leadership.
Yeah, you talked about reading. I wanted to say diversity, and reading is the only thing that can make you diverse. It's the only thing that can make you open-minded as a leader to further be able to just listen to your people.
Well, it helps. I mean, experience, getting there, getting down and dirty, talking to people, observing them, observing as well. That is all part of the mix. You know, sometimes reading can seem like experience because you take concepts from there which you can use actively in your life. So anything, you need a whole range, a whole variety of experiences for one to be sort of whole. You know
but Ali, the question is, with everything that we're talking about diversity, being a good communicator, being confident. Do leaders really possess these things at the end of the day?
I think some do.
Some do, but hardly.
Some do.
Hardly you really come across, you know, those ones.
Well, maybe the thing is, a lot of people just call themselves leaders, or maybe the media, for some reason, we categorize them as leaders. So certain people, we have certain formulaic ways of talking, of speaking. So we are not even aware of what is the reality out there.
Exactly.
In these elections, we've seen how many parties have, came up. But what happened in the end? There was nothing. You didn't have much people there. You may call yourself a leader, but apparently a lot of people do not think so. So this is the key. There are genuinely, I think at any given point, there are genuinely very few true leaders.
Yeah.
A lot of people just call themselves that.
Yeah.
So this is
at the end of the day. So I think that's the word, true leader, at the end of the day. And
but then what the most important thing here is that at the end of the day, it is the people who make you a leader. I mean, you alone, you can lead without anyone following you. So
yeah, and also people following you does not really make you a true leader at the end of the day.
There are other things that you must do. That's it, that vision we're talking about, and then how you can lead your people, inspire your people so that you can fulfill certain things. So also having a sound model. If I say that we are in condition A and we want to move on to condition B, what is going to be my model, my strategy? So many times our thoughts get so muddled up, then we will never realize our objectives. So there is that element of competence, that's really what I'm talking about, built into this whole idea of leader. Because if we're going to fulfill our objectives that a good leader should be able to do, then, certainly your leadership will be slightly tarnished, or there will be certain question marks. So it's really very, very difficult to become a leader.
It is. And it's made so easy.
And in
this generation, it's made so easy to just become a leader at a snap of a finger, right?
I'm not sure whether you are. I mean, there's a lot of media hype, so it gives the impression that this is the case.
Yeah.
But really, when the chips are down, when you tell people, when you have to do an activity where people must get up and do,
then we can
just see how many you can pull, you can draw.
Yeah.
But in this case, what does it take to be a good leader? That will have people who are following you, listening to you, and do what you want to do.
Oh boy, it will take a few qualities. Integrity, notions like integrity typically come into it, and something else. Competence. Competence must be at the very heart of it. That organizational ability. So, because when you look at most of these great ones. Recently I've been trying to read people like Sankara and the Cabrals and the like. They always have that basic competence, that organizational ability. Earlier on we talked about that breadth of mind, as that Lee Kuan Yew talked about. You got to have that. And they're not simply there for the office. The conviction, they've got a conviction, and they are committed to it. I remember reading about Sankara saying to his family, don't expect anything from me because I'm president. I don't have much money. Wow. I don't have anything. So to me, given our condition, our social norms, the way we are, my suspicion is this. Any serious politician or president, first you're going to have to go to war with your own people if you really wish to make certain developmental inroads on how you're going to deal with governance. And the corruption, we talk about it all the time. You're going to have to go to war with your people first. Then maybe you can do certain things. Recently, the president of Malawi, Lazarus Chakwera, had a serious address to his people because they're always calling him, sending him emails. We want you to do this for me. We want you to do this for me. He said, look, you know, you cannot be one thing and you expect your government to be another. Yes. You know, if you want a good government, you have to rely on yourself.
And what's funny is, in Africa here, sometimes they expect you to start with your family. Then they want fum joge mba defar nafa. Do responsibility pour mu defar fim joge parce que leader la. Wax bobu togut fen.
Absolutely. So this is it. It's like the people, we ourselves, in many ways, certain norms tend to encourage certain behavior. Sure. And it appears that for youth, especially when I say these things, it is really for youth to reflect and decide that actually we don't want to be like that.
Exactly.
This is really how you can reclaim the narrative and try to rectify some of our shortcomings.
These issues.
Like you said, it's quite interesting. I mean, for me, I think this is one of the most interesting proverbs.
It's interesting and complex in a way.
Exactly.
Because like Mr. Mboj said, it's about the true leader. That's that leader we're finding here in this instance.
And when it comes to the issue of taking up responsibility as a leader, how important is it as far as having people follow you? Taking up responsibility, whether it is right or wrong.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, that is key. The buck stops with the leader. But I like something that Cabral once said. Claim no easy victories. I like stuff like that. So it's almost like he just wants it to be unnatural, just be real. I think that once you are real, I think that you've got 50% chance because then perhaps you will get the right expertise. You will talk about the issues that you need to without being swayed by emotion or extraneous ideas, you know what I mean, or vested interests and stuff like that. So just being natural, being honest to things, hence the integrity coming in here, and being empathetic. I think I was talking to Hausum Sisa, the historian, when we were talking about leadership and Kocha Barma, empathy was one of the concepts of leadership. You have to have empathy for the people. Then I suspect that you will begin to see some rewards. I think to a large extent, the honesty has not been there, the organizational ability has not been there, and there are certain norms that would drag, as it were, good governance. Yeah,
Mr. Mboj, I think we're taking a lot of we've been taking a lot of time these days
it's quite
when it comes to our African proverbs because they're so interesting. And like you mentioned, you said that is it wrong or right as a leader you have to accept. The reason why I said we do not have a lot of true leaders is because most of the time when it goes wrong, when it goes south, they're like, oh, I wasn't involved. Yes, so then how many leaders do we have at the end of the day? Because they hate to take responsibility. And the moment you don't do that, then you're not a leader anymore.
Oh, come on, don't malign the African leaders. We're seeing it all over the world.
This is all over the world.
I mean, Trump.
Boris Johnson. But at the end of the day, we have an Africa to strengthen, to change. So we sometimes have to be selfish and start with us, change us first at the end of the day. So that is why most of the time my examples are African.
Yes, because the problem seems bigger.
Exactly, and more visible.
And more visible, and it seems quite difficult so far, given our experience from independence to now. Some aspects have proved difficult.
So I'm afraid we might have to now go for a short commercial break, and when we come back, we'll head right on to the newspaper review. Do stay tuned.
life, I'm the light goddess. Everything I touch turns into light. I am the light at the end of the tunnel, and my technology is the answer. I am the happiness in your life. I keep you connected, and I am Q-Power. I am Q-Cell. I am Senior Boss. We innovate, others follow. Call 111 for more information.
Want it? Order for it and pay quickly using QuickPay on the QMoney platform. With great technology comes ease and convenience. Get a glimpse of what a comfortable life is with QMoney by dialing *323# now. Call 133 for more information. QMoney, Sunyu Kalpe.
Hello there, welcome back from that short commercial break. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV this morning. So Aliu, we'll just go through all of the headlines and just get to discuss as we go. So what's on the standard?
On the standard, we have UDP petitions Barrow over election fraud, ask court to declare polls invalid. Okay. We also have Gambia participants demand anti-corruption bill now. And also GRA, Gambia Revenue Authority, trains staff on modernized operations. That's what we have on the standard.
We have the voice here. We have Dabo urges all members and supporters of the UDP to stay calm. And also soldier orders arrested with suspected drug. And GMC to sue IEC over contempt proceeding. And GRA boss extols journalists' role in reporting revenue issues. And UDP filed election petition against Barrow victory at Supreme Court. So this is all quite similar stories there.
Exactly. Mr. Boy, that's it for as far as the newspaper is concerned. We have on the standard newspaper, UDP petitions Barrow over election fraud, ask court to declare polls invalid. In the sense, UDP is claiming participation of non-Gambians in the voting exercise, and also claiming there was inducement sort of by the NPP by giving out cooking pots and all that to people. But I'm sure this matter is now before the Supreme Court. We might not be able to...
There's not a lot of comments, obviously.
So we cannot comment much on it because it's before the court now. We will just allow the court to do its own interpretation and all that. But then just your opinion, briefly.
Oh, absolutely.
About the move by the UDP.
Yeah, I know. I was just looking at it. They've given us a whole raft of grounds for going to the Supreme Court, which of course is their right, you know, really. I mean, I think now out of the 6 candidates, it's only the UDP that's going to court.
GDC is also saying, you know, they're also
thinking about it. So absolutely, it is their right to go to court. I mean, for us, of course, the rest of the citizens, we've seen that this time round we had so many, you know, observation missions, and, you know, international and local, and most of them sort of give the elections a clean bill of health.
Yes,
but again, if they're dissatisfied with that, they can, of course, go to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, so moving on, let's talk about actually grassroots issues. Politics has been all over the place. Here on The Voice, we have soldier orders arrested with drugs. I mean, the perception and the argument has been that when it comes to drug issues, it's first of all with the authorities before the individuals who are caught usually. So that is just the perception around. So what do you think, considering the fact that a soldier is arrested with drug itself? The person supposed to probably enforce this.
Yes, sometimes you'll have some rotten potatoes in there, as it were. You cannot blame the institution really for what individuals do. When you look at the size of the army, that's just one person.
But this has been a long-standing argument.
Well, yes. Occasionally you will have these things. I mean, I don't think one would blame the army for that. It was quite interesting that they arrested people with drugs in different regions. Yeah. There was Basse, West Coast region, CRR, LRR, and that sort. Yes, absolutely. There's so much money in drugs, let's be honest with it. And there's a market out there. So you will always have people who would venture to do it. Yes, so we can use the moral arguments, you know, one shouldn't do it, granted, but we must strengthen our police to be able to, you know, make the right arrests and prosecute them and see what they can do. So it's a good thing.
And have internal checks as well. Because this is not the first time something as such has happened at the end of the day.
Oh, but I think for me, at the end of the good thing is that, I mean, it shows perhaps, you know, the officials or the officers of the drug law enforcement that are doing their work. If you can arrest a soldier, then that shows that something is going on. At least the fight is ongoing. Even though it's difficult to, you know, to fight drugs in this country. Yes, it's really difficult. With the porous borders and all that, is quite challenging.
Mr. Ade said we should not mention porous
borders.
Yes,
he said porous
till the end of 2021. So Ali, there's something that is on the Standard and on the Voice as well, which is GRA boss urging journalists to actually report on revenue issues. But the main issue here, the reason why he mentioned this is because GRA is now taking a different direction. They're digitalizing revenue collection. So I already mentioned corruption. Anyway, it just came out of my mouth. How do you think really digitalizing revenue collection can lessen corruption and just other irregularities when it comes to our revenue that we all pay?
Absolutely, that's the hope anyway. That's the idea that with digitalization, it will make it more difficult. I mean, for people to break the law regarding that. So still, even with the machines, it all depends on human beings, what we do or what we use it for. And the other aspect that he said now they're going to also focus on domestic revenue mobilization. Yeah. I wonder what that means. Are we going to have more taxes? I don't know. Are they going to expand the base? Are they going to expand the base, and how are they going to do it? So it will be quite interesting to see. And they're quite right. International revenue coming from outside, well, that is uncertain. It just depends. But it also depends on what will be the cost, what it means in practice when you talk about focusing on domestic revenue mobilization.
Yeah. Well, I don't want that. Ali, I don't know for you.
Well, you don't know what they're going to do.
Yes.
You really do not know.
But what is certain is that we have seen from 2017 to date, they have really been doing well in terms of, you know, tax collection. Collecting more than $1 billion a month. I mean, is quite impressive, to be honest with you. I mean, knowing the fact that the Gambia is a tax-based economy, I mean, we rely mostly on this tax to be able to, you know, carry out some development projects.
You're smiling, Mr. Mbuj. You don't agree?
No, I'm not. I don't agree. I was just laughing there when they said the Gambia is a tax-based economy. Yeah. If they had been here, they would say, no, it's a cash-based economy. Okay, cash-based economy. That's not okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this is it, yes. In the few past years, of course, we've seen that the amount they collect has been increasing and that sort of thing. But also, you'll be told that there's a huge room for improvement.
Yeah. At the end of the day.
Most people really here do not pay tax. I think the informal economy is huge.
Yeah.
You know, it far outstrips, as it were, the formal economy. So there are huge challenges out there for them to really maximize, as it were, that base, expand the base as widely as they can, so they will have more revenue.
And talking about corruption, on the Standard, Gambia participates, demands, they're using the word demand, an anti-corruption bill now, talking about, for example, the GRA digitalizing. It's also part of efforts to really limit corruption. So, and now the Gambia participates, now that President Adama Barrow has another 5 years. They're demanding from him to come up with the anti-corruption bill as soon as possible.
But I think as we speak, it's already at the parliament.
Yeah, but probably they want it to be faster, maybe, looking at this.
That's it. Yeah. But when you say that, then it appears to me that what can Barrow do once he's giving it to the National Assembly, then isn't it up to the National Assembly what they do there?
This is also an independent body as far as, you know, the government.
And obviously, when it comes to putting together these bills, it is important that it's done step by step, just to avoid mistakes at the end of the day. So. Anyway.
Absolutely, but the key thing is now when, because I think we're going to have National Assembly elections when next year?
Yeah, next year.
2022.
We did what, by April, May, I'm not sure, something like that.
So are you saying...
So would anything happen
before
between...
that?
Absolutely. So when I have a suspicion, I didn't know. But maybe it's been there for such a long time. And these people, some of them might be, you know, the term is coming to an end. So maybe they may pass it. I do not know why.
Yeah. They might also want to pass it to have it as a legacy to say it
at the
was
end
passed
of the day
during our time.
But the thing is, do you think really, Mr. Mboj, a corruption bill should be the determining factor when it comes to limiting corruption, really? Should that be?
Anti-corruption bills, they're important. You need the legal framework. Yes. So with some of our civil society organizations, we've seen how a few times have gone to the courts on behalf of the people on a point of principle against some of these institutions, and they've won. So it will just depend on what is in the bill. What is going to be in the Anti-Corruption Act, what will be the powers there, and then even for us journalists. So it will matter. It's not going to be the silver bullet, obviously. You need all the things to go right as well, to depend on what the media does, what people do, what civil society organizations. It depends on what everybody else does to make it meaningful.
Yeah, you said it's not the silver bullet, and right, we have a lot of bills at the end of the day, and they're not working. They're not being implemented, and it's because the things around it are not really working. So, Ali, let's talk about bread. Let's talk about bread. It's one of them. I mean, on a daily basis, man hamna la yo every suba magis la ngay romba sa tapalapa. And government announces that bread price at 7%. Andele, dama de gise tapalapa.
That's my choice.
Mr. Mboj, de mom duma ko de gis ak mburu nak. So munuma wax ci mom. Why yo mom mun na wa. So government announces bread price at 7%, at $7 per loaf. For the past 3 days, no bread. For the past 3 days. I think some of these bakeries are on strike or something. And this is not the first time it is happening.
Yes, we've been having these spats, as it were, between the owners of bakeries and government for quite a while now. Some people think that these bakeries, they've sort of formed a cartel where they want to control the price, determine prices, and all the rest of it. I understand that the government has sort of had a deal with those who producers who sell flowers so that the prices would be reasonable, allowing these bakeries and others to sell the bread at $7.
Yeah.
So we'll see whether what will happen. So it seems as if they are holding the people to ransom, and then otherwise, you know, if you do not pay this, then we will bake, knowing how much we depend on this,
bread.
you know, on bread. Well, certainly the government must come with a policy where it can counter this sort of cartel-like behavior. You know, but that's really what that's their job.
Okay.
Really, that's really one of their tasks. How do they break this? Because we keep episode open, we keep on going around the same circle. So how do we break this? That is really what their job is. How do we break this cartel-like behavior? Cartel-like
behavior. So I'm afraid that is all we have time for, Aliu, on the newspaper review. So now we'll be joined by Mr. Led from the Q Group Foundation. If you've been following developments, the Q Group has recently launched a scholarship package for university students, targeting mainly students who intend to venture into the sciences, which is STEM, engineering, science, and mathematics. So we'll be joined by Mr. Led shortly to give us an update in relation to the scholarship package. To stay tuned.
I am the light goddess. Everything I touch turns into light. I am the light at the end of the tunnel, and my technology is the answer. I am the happiness in your life. I keep you connected, and I am Q Power. I am QCell. I am Senior Boss. We innovate, others follow. Call 111 for more information.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV this morning, and I am your host, Jana Bosonko, joined by my co-host, Aliu Cisse. I think we're forgetting One Stop Water Solution. It's because of One Stop Water Solution. That's why we're sitting here today. They are our main partners for this program. So thank you so much to One Stop Water Solution for your support, for all your water filters, for all your tanks and dispensers. Head right onto the Sukuta Highway window shop or shop just to see anything that you can buy from them. Quality water is a fundamental human right, and with One Stop Water Solution, it is available. So like I mentioned, we are joined by Mr. Led from the Q Group Foundation. The Q Group Foundation has launched a UTG scholarship package for freshly grade 12 students who want to venture into the STEM field. So Mr. Led, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Geneva.
Yes. So I want to know how the scholarship actually came about. Is it based on the fact that QCell is a technology-based company? Is that the reason why you're really interested in grooming the next generation of young people who want to venture into the STEM field?
Yeah, that's a very good question. That is part of it. But in general, every country depends on, technology, on technocrats, particularly on engineers to build up the country. Yeah. So for that reason, the Q Group Foundation thought it wise to encourage students to venture into the sciences, to be specific, the STEM subjects. Actually, the main purpose of the scholarship is to encourage students starting from grade 11, or from grade 7 actually. Okay. That's our target. However, for everything, the best thing is to show the end product. Okay. For that reason, we, as of now, are targeting grade 12 believers who have already got admission into, into the University of the Gambia. But fresh, intakes, not all intakes, and so that we can show the example that these people will have full scholarship, will also enjoy facility of free internet for the whole time of for the whole period of their study. Okay. Yeah.
So what are some of the requirements to be able to get this scholarship package?
Well, two things. You must have admission into one of the STEM subjects in the University of the Gambia. The other thing is that you must be coming from a low socioeconomic background. Okay. And so for that reason, we have 2 scholarships for each of the regions. Okay. And of course, including the Greater Banjul. Okay. So
which, yes, Ali?
Yeah, quite interesting. For most of us who have been following the work of QCell in the past, we know they have at some point organized the QCell Spelling Bee. Sure. I remember back then when I was in Basse on posting covering for Observer, I used to cover their competition there. Amazing. But also, if you look at it, what is the procedure for someone who is interested in gaining this scholarship? How do you go about it?
Well, you will notice that we've already put in a flyer. The flyer tells it all, and this is going to be distributed into all the regions and all the senior secondary schools. We've actually produced over 5,000 flyers, and the committee is being manned by both the Q Group Foundation as well as the Ministry of Education. Okay. So for that reason, we think it would reach the community. And from the flyer, you can really see that everything is well spelled out, and that students who are qualified for this, who've got university admission, for one of the STEM subjects, you can apply. You go through the application. It's going to be available. It's already available both in the Q Group website as well as the ministry's website.
Okay.
So you run through, submit everything online.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how many scholarships are you giving out?
We're giving out 2 scholarships to each region.
You're giving out 2 scholarships to each region, which is quite decentralized. Yeah. And also, Mr. Led, I want to understand how you will get to know the people coming from low socioeconomic backgrounds. That must be really difficult, isn't it? How are you going to determine that?
Well, we try to make it as simple as possible.
Okay.
I mean, in the application, you will be asked to indicate why you think you need financing.
Okay.
So that should tell us why. I mean, that should tell us whether you qualify for it or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when is the deadline for application?
The deadline is 31st of January, 2022.
To be able to apply. And this is for, just to remind people that this is specifically for people who are in the STEM fields, who want to venture into STEM fields. And also, is there any special treatment in a way for female? You know, are females further encouraged to apply? Because I know when it comes to the STEM field, there's a lot of gap when it comes to the presence of male and female. So is there any further encouragement that you're trying to put forward to encourage more females to really apply for the scholarship?
Well, as far as the Q Group Foundation is concerned, for everything that we do, I mean, we are aware of the gender disparity, and for that reason, we always give women, you know, their rightful position.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay, that's good to know.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yes, so thank you so much, Mr. Led, for joining us. But Aliu, you can just summarize and just...
Yeah, exactly. Just like, like Jennifer rightly mentioned, this is just about the Q Group Foundation scholarship package that they are giving out to students from underprivileged families who actually want to study in the sciences. I mean, like Mr. Led just said, I mean, the requirements is that, you know, you must be a fresh graduate from grade 12 and then, you know, must already have acceptance letter from the University of the Gambia, and then you must study in the fields of computer science, information system, mathematics, data science, planning and design, physics, biology, and chemistry. Yeah, that's interesting. I wish I was into journalism. I would have also applied.
And you know, the applications are open effective today, 15th of December.
Okay, exactly. So applications are open
to the 1st of.
Application is open from 15th December to 31st January.
Okay, so is there a link or where are they supposed to go? Is there a website, Mr. Led, that they're supposed to visit?
Yeah, there's a link.
Okay, there's a link.
Yes, I'm seeing something like complete application on a particular link.
But anyway, like Mr. Led mentioned, they've printed 5,000 flyers, and this will be distributed across the region, considering that the scholarship is quite decentralized. Yes, and the benefits are that you will have a full scholarship to the University of the Gambia and free internet. I was a student at the University of the Gambia. I know how it feels, Mr. Led, to go to university without, you know, access to internet and all of that.
Especially during this pandemic, you know, when you have to, you know, online classes and all that.
Exactly. So it's a good thing that you decided to include internet to the package.
Yeah, I mean, this announcement at the moment is really for 2021, 2022. Yeah. In July, August, September, we'll be announcing another one.
No.
Yeah, because this one is a bit late, given, you know, the pandemic and all the issues that surround it.
Yeah. But Mr. Led, Aliu here is saying he wants to go back to grade 12 to be able to have the scholarship. Is that allowed?
All we can say is that if you have the criteria to qualify,
you're good to go.
Yes, I did. I can just go and represent my grade 12.
Go and sit grade 12 again to be able to get it.
I'm sorry, I will make it.
You'll make it. Anyway, thank you so much, Mr. Led, for coming on the program. And like he mentioned, the application process is open effective today, and it's quite simple. It's a very simple application process. So wishing you all good luck and encouraging young people who are also in the regions to apply. It's not just young people in the Greater Banjul area, but it's across the board. So thank you so much, Mr. Led, for joining us. Now we will go for a short commercial break, and when we come back, we will be joined by a representative from the Ministry of Health, and we'll be discussing the new Omicron coronavirus variant, just to find out how prepared Gambia Gambia is, and particularly the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare. Do stay tuned.
Begin your SUV life. S-Pass Motors, the new authorized dealer for Kia. Visit us today or call us on 3522-222, 353-2222.
Looking for the fastest and easiest way to receive money transfers from abroad? Well, Q Money and RIA just made it happen. Now you can receive international money transfer from RIA directly into your Q Money account with no additional cost. Once you receive an SMS alert about your transfer, walk into any Q Money agent across the country to receive your payment for free, or use the money immediately to buy credit, Q Power, and other Q Money services. It's fast, safe, and convenient. For more info, call customer care on 133. Q Money, Sinu Calpe. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back from that short break. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV this morning. I'm your host, Jenna Bosonko, joined by Aliu Cisse, my co-host here. And once again, we'll be discussing the new Omicron coronavirus variant, and we'll just be taking a look at how prepared the Gambia is, particularly the Ministry of Health. Aliu, like I mentioned before we came on, the last time he was here, tuti ñu here. Thank you so much once again for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure always to be on QTV this morning. Thank you.
All right. So yes, how prepared? That's the topic. How prepared is the Gambia in relation to the new Omicron coronavirus? But before we really just jump into that, there are just things that I feel we need to discuss.
Lay the foundation.
Yeah, we need to lay the foundation, like I always say.
What is the situation?
We need to lay the foundation. Because you see, Aliu, the belief that I have is, with the gaps that have been identified when it comes to just the COVID-19, the response that the ministry gave it can really guide the ministry in also responding or preparing for the Omicron variant. So really, what are some of these gaps? What are some of the lessons learned to further channel it to also responding to these ones?
Thank you very much, Geneva and Aliu, this morning for having me. Our wonderful viewers, I am Jibril Gandobalde from the Directorate of Health Promotion and Education, the Communication Unit. So starting with your question, I think now the Gambia, at least we are knowledgeable in handling variants. At least we have a baseline knowledge, because we have dealt with the first variant, which was the Alpha coronavirus, then the Beta came, the Gamma came, Delta was the last variant, and now here is coronavirus giving us a new baby again. We call it, and that is known as the Omicron. So this Omicron is a virus that just emerged in around South Africa, from the southern region of Africa, that is between Botswana, Burkina Faso, and South Africa. So the samples were collected in Botswana and then tested in South Africa, and then on the 11th it was detected they are dealing with a new variant. When we talk about these new variants, it's just that like the changes of the virus regarding its receptors, because this is the outer cell of the virus where it attaches to our own human cells. So when they, because any day they are doing samplings of tests at the labs, they will be looking at this with the microscope, very high, electronic microscope. So they will be able to notice physical differences when it happens. So when you are dealing with Delta, sequencing it for over a month, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, you get used to it, you get to know it and recognize it. So whenever you see another form forming from that Delta you have been seeing, sequencing every day, you will notice it. And this is how they came to notice about the Omicron, that the spike proteins, that is the outer part of the cells, they have seen some around 30 changes. That was different from the normal delta that they were dealing with. So that was when it was picked up, and it was picked up from South Africa. But whether it is started from South Africa or it started in Europe or China, nobody can verify that. And because of that reason, South Africa picking it up, it has been penalized. And they are crying foul that even their president last time was saying this. You know, this is not encouraging to public health. Because when you blow a whistle towards a particular disease that have been regarded as a virus of concern, then you should not be penalized for that. Because that shows that your surveillance is very effective. They are very, very much, you know, aware of the changes at a time nobody in the world, no scientist in the world noticed that changes. So they should be commended for that. But instead what we saw happen was, you know, travel bans you know, for all South African countries, specifically South Africa as the host country that, you know, identified the virus. So this have warranted the Gambia also trying to plan, because we have had all countries putting up release statements. So this warranted the Minister of Health to also come up with a press release.
And at the end of the day, you know,
let me just land
hope,
here.
I just hope that, we'll just take this step by step. I just hope that this won't affect other countries. Probably they might notice certain viruses, and maybe due to the discrimination and the restrictions,
this is the fear
they might not even come out to say it.
And then that can be more deadly than the Omicron. Who knows? The next mutation.
Exactly. And now, like you said, it started in South Africa. We've seen, you know, how it has affected them. I mean, so many travel bans as far as South Africa is concerned. And now to Gambia. How prepared are we?
Yes, so that's where I am. And from the 11th of December, the government of the Gambia, through the Minister of Health, came up with a statement to say we are now categorizing all countries when it comes to the prevention of the Gambia with regards to this Omicron virus. That in category 1, all those who are coming from category 1 countries that are fully vaccinated passengers coming into the Gambia, they have full vaccination and they do not need a PCR. So if you are fully vaccinated and you are not coming from the hotspots of this Omicron and even the Delta, we are not only doing our surveillance on the Omicron for now, because now, remember, globally still Delta is the dominant variant. So Omicron is just coming in, and we also expect maybe in future it can be the dominant variant for now, is Delta. So now all those who are coming with full vaccination and not from hotspot countries, you can enter the Gambia without a PCR. But for those who are in the category 2, that is non-vaccinated, if you are not vaccinated or you are partially vaccinated, you take AstraZeneca 1 dose, you are left with the 2nd dose, that is partially vaccinated, or you have not even received any. That one, you need a PCR to enter into the country. That means your country of origin, where you are coming from, they have to test you to verify whether you are having COVID positive or negative. And if you are positive, that means you should not be allowed to come into the Gambia. And if you are negative, then you can come in. But partially, because you are not vaccinated fully, so we are not taking the risk of bringing you in. So these are steps that the Minister of Health have put in place. And thirdly also, we have in the category 2, we have, if you are from these countries that are the hotspot countries, these countries are United Kingdom. If you are from United Kingdom, USA, Denmark, Germany, Turkey, India, Sweden, Canada, Switzerland, Netherlands, Italy, Belgium, Japan, Australia, Mexico, Portugal, South Africa, and Finland. If you are from these countries, you need a PCR negative
did you have
to come in to the country.
No, coming from there, no, I did not need any.
Now you need, if you are coming
That's
from,
recently,
yes, these are developments.
Lucky me, right?
So now if you are coming in, you need a negative PCR within 72 hours. Because these are regarded as hotspots for the Delta variant, not hotspots for the Omicron,
okay.
but these are countries that we are putting our surveillance around those who are in the
So
Delta.
in front of us, we see age-sex distribution of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the Gambia 2021.
Yes.
So that is it right now in front of us.
So this is going to tell us the age difference.
Yeah.
You can see from 20 to 21 and from 31 to 40. Most of our cases come from this age range. And if you remember, this week is the week that we registered 10,000 cases since the Gambia started having positive cases for coronavirus.
That's from
So
March 2020.
From March 2020 up till date. As of now, we have 56 active cases. Only 56 out of that 10,000 lot are still with COVID-19. So these are the active cases. So, but when you look at out of that 10,000, you can see that 31 to 21, they are almost 50% of our cases.
Okay.
But when it comes to the number of deaths, you can see our deaths are mostly those within the age range of 70 and 60.
Sure.
And that age range, you have small number of people who are infected. Less than 1,000 if you should add all of them. But most of the deaths, because we have registered 342 deaths within this 2 years period. So that shows us that the Gambia, when it comes to infection, it is more within the youthful population, but when it comes to the deaths, it is more among the elderly. So it's either the youths picking it up from the activities outside, bringing it home, and then when elders catch it, that is the time. But thank God, since the 10th or the 1st of December, we have not yet registered any death. But when you look at the other graph, when you have the waves, when you look at this is the wave for the beta, the delta, and the gamma. So this, what is showing us is that the beta, it only takes it 25 days to reach around 80 to 100% of infection. When it takes the delta around 100 days to get to 80% of infection, or even to 100. So this shows us typically how infectious is the Omicron. That is the B1.1529. That is the numerical classification of the Omicron. So you can see that is why it is indicated red. So this tells us that Omicron is more infectious, but it's not telling us that Omicron is more deadly or is more severe, because those data are not still yet out. There is no data to support that Omicron is more deadly. Since its arrival, we have been hearing that its numbers have been doubling, but even with that doubling, we hear less deaths, even in South Africa, where it was first identified. Still now, they are studying the people who are having the Omicron virus, but most of these people are going about their normal routine businesses. Only few that are hospitalized, and out of those who are hospitalized are the ones that are not vaccinated. So that's why the Gambia is taking all measures to make sure that coming this next month, we also roll out a COVID-19 vaccination.
You talk about travelers arriving in the country, the measures as far as the test is concerned. How do you ensure that this is enforced at the airport?
These are communications that are made to the airlines, and before they are coming, they should be tested. These are requirements.
Normally, you can't even
just like the Gambia. When you are to leave the Gambia, every traveler knows I have to go for my PCR test. So when you are also coming to Gambia, communications will be made to the different airlines that are bringing people in the Gambia. They know when there is need for a Gambian to get a PCR and when there is no need, because there was a communication that was made that if you are fully vaccinated coming to Gambia from any country in Europe, you don't need a PCR test. But since the Omicron development, we also try to increase our surveillance and also try to make sure that we capture these countries. And countries that are also Omicron hotspots, this is the third category. The third category are countries that are Omicron hotspots, like Botswana, Namibia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Eswatini, and Lesotho. These are countries that are predominantly having increasing number of cases of this thing. So we are saying that these countries like Angola, Zambia, so these are countries that are hotspots for Omicron. So if you are coming from these countries, we make sure that even when you land, we do a PCR to confirm. To confirm. And what we are doing also to prevent the Omicron, now any positive case we see in the Gambia, we sequence it to verify whether it is the Omicron or not. So now every positive case is treated, is double checked to not only see whether it's only positive for SARS-CoV-2.
So don't you think that sequencing should have never stopped?
We are always on that. We are scientists.
So there was no point in time where that stopped?
Yes, because what we do in those other periods is we have a lot of samples, and when we have many positives, we collect samples of those positives and sequence them. That is the routine. But when you are running into an emergency, and WHO have declared this Omicron as a virus of concern, and virus of concern are viruses that are capable of crossing borders internationally, and that is what is shown with Omicron, and they are capable of making many people sick, globally, and they can also kill some people. So these are some of the issues. That's why now we are not taking chances. So now for every positive, it should be sequenced.
So what happened in the event that somebody arrived at the airport and then there's the signs of the...
That one you will be tested, whether you came with your negative PCR or you are fully vaccinated. Whenever you present signs and symptoms, that is also indicated in the communication. Whenever you present signs and symptoms during the travel period, then when you come to the airport, because the temperature will be checked. So if we see your temperature is a little bit higher than normal, you will put
so
you aside.
So who's checking that temperature? Is there a public health
officers are there. But every flight that land and
but when did that start? Because I just landed Saturday in the Gambia and nobody checked my temperature. So I don't know when this started.
The PCR, no, this communication was made on the 10th. This communication was made on the 10th.
Okay. Yes, I'm here after on the 10th. I came in to the airport and no one checked my temperature.
Yeah, but you didn't come with any signs and symptoms.
But but it doesn't mean. What about people who are symptomatic? Everybody's temperature has to be checked.
The surveillance, what is picking now, we have passed that stage. What we are checking now is the documents to prove that you are either vaccinated fully to enter the country, or if you are not vaccinated, those are our primary targets for now. Who are not vaccinated, that we fear they can, if they are infected, they can transmit the virulent form of the virus. But if you are infected, we don't expect you to transmit the wild virus, because you have some immunity in you that suppress that virus in you. So that's why it's different, someone who is not vaccinated transmitting you the virus and someone who is vaccinated. If you are fully vaccinated, the virus is suppressed in you, because that is what the vaccine does. It introduces a form of the virus in your body.
So there's a public health booth verifying those who are vaccinated and everything.
And now let's look at the situation of the Gambia, Senegal, and the globe.
Yes. So we can see in the globe now, 271 million cases have been confirmed globally. But out of those, we have seen a significant improvement in recoveries. 243 million have recovered.
931,000.
So this shows us that COVID is not that much very deadly as people fear it. Because out of 271 million infected globally, 243 were recovered. But the saddest part of it was that we lost 5 million people. That's also cannot be underestimated.
And you're still saying it's not deadly as people think. This is deadly. 5 million?
Deadly, it's deadly, but how many people were infected that it could have killed?
Yes.
Even if we had 200,000 people lose their lives, it's deadly.
It's bad, right?
Globally, when you look at the case fatality rate,
okay, you're talking globally, right?
No, the top one is the global figure. So when you look at that, like what you are saying, how many it have killed, we regard it as the case fatality rate of the global case fatality rate will be around 5%. For every 100 people that have it, only maybe 4 or 5 have died. So in our Gambian case, our case fatality rate is 3.2 to 3.3. So out of every 100 that have it, because remember, we have how many hundreds that have it? We have 10,000 people who had it, but we had 300 along the line who lost their life. So that shows a representation of the data that 3.3%. So 10,045 have got it, but
lucky you, Aliu.
So you are part of the 900. Is part of the 900.
I'm not part.
So you see, of course, you are also part of the 900. This 900, many of us are part of this 900.
I know.
So,
but anyway,
but
even
you can
if
see,
we lost 300,
you know,
it's a lot to
or
us.
even one, even one person, if it is your family,
yes.
it is very hard.
It is
Some
hard.
people still cannot get that sadness from them that have been introduced due to COVID by losing their loved ones. Even us, our colleagues, those people we have lost along the line, we can never forget them.
So thank you so much for joining us. Your
you
time
are
off in your
welcome.
time bi du doy.
Time
off in your time bi du doy. Waaye maa la gën a tàng nag. Cameraman lay yóbbu airport. Dem xool airport bi lu fa xew. Ndax seen public health officers yi ñu ngi def seen liggéey.
Dem fa boori 4 AM.
du ma la wax time de 4 AM.
4 AM nga xam ne yow time boobu foog nga ne dëkk bi ñëpp ay nelaw. Our people are there standing. 6 AM, those who fly out, ask them. Our port health officers are there to verify their certificates.
Man dunduma ko nag waaye dinaa dem verify.
Tukki boori 4 AM, 6 AM. Del tukki time boobu.
Dinaa dem verify.
So that's
fekkee nga ko.
Wow, man, I must have my travel. When I come, I go
early in the morning. They don't sleep.
Your case was
man de dinaa ko dem verify seet.
ñooñu lañ dee liggéey comme montor. Montor xam nga sa montor bi di taxaw.
All right, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Thank you. It's always good to have you here. And hopefully we won't have you here again talking about another variant. We don't want that.
So I mean, so
we will go for a short break, and then shortly we will be joined by Lala Toure. So Lala Toure is part of young people across the world who were fortunate to attend the U.S. President Joe Biden's Democracy Summit in Washington, D.C. So she'll be here to talk to us about the summit and just generally about the involvement of young people in democratic processes. Do stay tuned.
I am the light goddess. Everything I touch turns into light. I am the light at the end of the tunnel, and my technology is the answer. I am the happiness in your life. I keep you connected, and I am Q-Power. I am Q-Cell. I am Senior Boss. We innovate, others follow. Call 111 for more information.
Begin your SUV life. S-Pass Motors, the new authorized dealer for Kia. Visit us today or call us on 3522-222, 353-2222.
Welcome back, viewers, from that short break. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV this morning. And Aliu, we are now joined by Lala Toure. She recently attended the Joe Biden summit in Washington, D.C., joining a lot of other young people across the world. Obviously, she wasn't there physically. It was virtual due to the coronavirus pandemic. That is why we just want it to disappear as fast as possible, so that we'll be able to interact, because most of the time these summits are just meant for us to share our cultural beliefs and all of that. So with the COVID-19 pandemic, we're unable to do that. Thank you so much for coming to this morning show, Lala.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be back.
Yes, glad to be back, right, on QTV. So how did it feel, really speaking, at this very high level summit?
Right, it was an honor to be one of the 9 youth leaders chosen from across the globe to have an opportunity to interact and, you know, speak at the summit. It created a platform where we interacted and we got to learn a lot about the United States efforts to make sure that they enhance and support democratic practices around the world. Yeah. It also created an opportunity for young people to ask questions about issues that concern them, affect their lives directly, and how the United States can partner with their various countries to ensure that these problems are addressed. So yes, it was a great platform to be on. Opened up our eyes to a lot of perspectives, different perspectives around the world, and what we can do better collectively to advance democracy around the globe.
So what were some of the questions asked? You said it was also an opportunity for young people across the world just to question things and to see partnerships that can exist. So what was the perception of these young people? What were the things that they really put forward?
Right, so the different young people that spoke at the event are faced with different problems depending on the context of the countries that they're from. There were questions about how the United States can support youth empowerment, youth inclusion into governance and political processes. There were questions about how United States can support their countries, their home countries, to mitigate the spread of coronavirus through the vaccines and all of that. So each of the people, all of the people that spoke had their own issues, had their own problems. Mine specifically was how the United States can partner with African countries, because we know Africa has the youngest population in the world, and young people are the key to democratic reform, the type of democratic reform that we want to see on the continent. So it's very crucial that young people, the central role that young people play are highlighted in these summits, and it's also important to make sure that these countries take up the commitment to partner with African countries to really empower the world's youngest population to take part in politics and leadership processes.
Yeah.
Talking about issue of partnership between the U.S. and African countries, where do we start?
Right, I think it has already started. For example, in the Gambia, the U.S. Embassy and other U.S.-funded activities. I work for the National Democratic Institute, and we are a U.S.-funded international organization. There is the IRI, there is the USAID. So already the partnership has started, and the U.S. is funding a lot of democratic projects in the country. The presidential debate that we just did was funded by the U.S. state. The election observation missions that we did, a lot of these things that the U.S. is funding to ensure that democracy is consolidated in the Gambia, not just in the Gambia, but all the other African countries that they have offices at, their embassies are at, and they're supporting local efforts to consolidate democracy. So it has started. Now the question is, how do we make sure that we strengthen the partnership in ways that it would benefit Africans, it would benefit the continent in meaningful ways, because we realize there are differences in context and realities. What democracy is in the U.S. may not necessarily be what democracy is in the Gambia based on context and realities. So now the conversation is, how do we strengthen our partnership in such ways that it will be reflective of our needs and our wants in the country to consolidate the type of democracy that we want to build?
Yeah, so I have two questions. You said there's a democratic process that young people are looking forward to, not just in Gambia, but just generally in Africa. So what is this process? What are you looking at from where you're sitting and expecting to see that in the near future?
Yeah, inclusion, the mainstreaming of youth issues in all developmental sectors, in leadership, in empowerment, in employment, different sectors that affects the lives and livelihood of young people directly and indirectly, affects their communities, affect their societies, affect their countries at large, and to ensure that young people are mainstream in leadership processes and they have a seat on the table where decisions are made, where they can influence policies and add their voice to national development, where young people can take the seat and influence what portion of an annual budget is allocated to them, so they can have access to skills acquisition, so they can have access to employment, so they can explore their potential and their talent in their own country without having to look elsewhere for better opportunities. So the gap is really big, and there is a need to fill in all these gaps to get us to where we want to get at. But it starts with ensuring that we have young people take a seat on the tables where the decisions on national issues are made, because there they can make sure whatever decision is made is reflective of their needs in the society.
So you talked about one thing. You talked about the fact that fine, the whole summit was based on partnership between African countries, obviously, and the United States. But do you also, as young people, sometimes sit and take a look at how, as African countries, we'll be able to be independent as well? Disclaimer, I'm not saying we should not have partnerships with these countries and benefit from their donations and all of that. But at some point, what if these things do not exist? So as young Africans, do you also, you know, try to see how we can strategize as a continent to also stand alone?
The goal is independence.
Okay.
The goal is independence. And I believe the conversation about independence started a long time ago, although the efforts have been very minimal. But the goal is to be independent, to stand on our own and be able to, you know, provide opportunities for our own people without having to rely on anybody's support. Because we realize a lot, most of the times, when you study international relations and you really read about aid and loans and grants, you understand that there's always something that they attach to it, something that they get in return. And yes, there's a need for, as young African leaders who are looking forward to leading different countries on the continent one day, there's a need for us to start strategizing to be really independent, financially independent, with regards to our development, how we want to champion our development, what type of change we want to bring on the continent. So there is a need to really have an honest and unfiltered conversation about this, and we are getting there. But like you said, no country can stand alone. Even the most powerful, the biggest countries in the world, they depend on other countries for their democracy. So there is a need to have these lasting partnerships, even though we recognize the need to stand independent as a continent.
Yeah. Well, you talk about the issue of young people, perhaps not that much being involved as far as decision making is concerned. Where do you think the problem lies?
This is a very fundamental problem, and I think it has to do with context and societal construct. So in places like the Gambia, until very recently, our culture does not even allow young people to speak in certain settings in our home level. So when elders are speaking, you're not expected to be there, you're not expected to have a voice, you're not expected to speak about it because you're young. They're supposed to guide you. And that, in so many ways, has filtered its way through into our politics. It has filtered its way through into our governance system. So you have young people that even in internal political party structures, they're there. They have the voters' cards. We saw the number that they pulled during the voter registration process. So they are participating, but they are not being represented.
Almost 555,000 unregistered voters were between the ages of 18 and 35.
Exactly. So that shows that young people are actually participating. They're actually interested, but the problem is they're not represented where it's needed the most. And this is due to various reasons. Even within the internal party structures, the participation of young people are mainly limited to youth wings. He's our youth president, he's our youth mobilizer, he's our youth secretary. And that in so many ways, just like when you have the women wings and you limit the women's participation and all of that representation there, it's the same thing when you have the youth wings in the internal party structures. And that in so many ways limits it. And in 2017, we had the Not Too Young to Run campaign where we encouraged, we mobilized young people across the country to run, and only 5 of them won the seats that they contested for in parliament. And it was not because they did not have the stuff. It was not because they were not qualified to be parliamentarians. But it had to do with their age. It had to do with the resistance of political parties to give them their tickets to run under. It had to do with the problems of mobilizing resources and finances to fund their campaigns. So there are various challenges that limit, just like when you talk about women and the challenges, there are challenges that also limit.
I also need to say this. It is also important that the young people themselves take up the challenge, because I can remember, I don't know, just recently I had this conversation with a particular organization who was trying to organize something for young people. It had to do with politics in a way. I don't want to mention the actual thing, but what happened was these young people were even unable to mobilize themselves properly across the regions to be able to benefit from a funding that was already there for them to build their capacities and do what they have to do. Probably you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, so with that, then you can say, are young people ready as well at the end of the day?
You have young people in this country that are ready. That anytime the opportunity comes up, they're going to grab it. But we also need to understand the fact that young people are not able to mobilize. I have been there. I've been in places where we have funded and want to give it out, and it's always a problem bringing young people together. But you need to understand the history of this. Young people are still struggling to come to terms with the new opportunities that are coming, because they've never been there before. It has always been young people not being given the opportunity, not being given the chance, not having any doors opened up for them. So there is a problem, and they need our support to be able to address those problems at the grassroots level, to do with coordination, to do with mobilization, to do with bringing themselves together and coming up with ideas and putting those ideas forward so they can tap into opportunities that are available. So the support is not just to say we want you to run or we have funding for you. The support is to make sure we get into their homes, we get into the grassroots and help them know how to mobilize and how to coordinate to tap into these opportunities that are available for them.
Yeah, anyway, it's a two-way thing. I know she would never agree. But,
that's Lala for you,
I know, but anyway, you know I am for young people at the end of the day. Everybody knows that. Yeah. But sometimes if they do things as well that are not done and they don't want to tap into these opportunities, we also have to push them.
I agree.
Yes, and these are the platforms where we also need to push them to kind of just hold them accountable and just to give them a tap on the back. It's important.
Definitely.
So, Ali, any final engagements before we go?
Yeah, just for me, like being just one among the 9 who were selected around the world. I mean, how was this done?
So the embassy.
I know someone out there who must be asking.
How
was Lala identified?
Right.
Yeah.
So the embassy wrote to me. So this was done through the U.S. State Department and all of that. And I think they have their ways of keeping tabs on people.
Yeah, they do.
So yeah, so when opportunities come up, they know exactly who to contact. So yeah. I can't really say it was no vetting process, no nothing. It was just an email.
Yeah. And when she saw the email from the U.S. State Department, she was like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
I was like, "Wait, what?" She was like, "Oh my God!" But anyway, it's a well-deserved one. Thank you so much for joining us on the program, Lala. Thank you so much. So we'll go for a short commercial break, and when we come back, we'll head right on to Sports World. We'll be joined by our colleague Ade Drami to take us through what is happening in the world of sports.
Looking for the fastest and easiest way to receive money transfers from abroad? Well, Q Money and RIA just made it happen. Now you can receive international money transfer from RIA directly into your Q Money account with no additional cost. Once you receive an SMS alert about your transfer, walk into any Q Money agent across the country to receive your payment for free, or use the money immediately to buy credit, Q Power, and other Q Money services. It's fast, safe, and convenient. For more info, call customer care on 133. Q Money, Sinu Calpe. Terms and conditions apply.
Want it? Order for it and pay quickly using QuickPay on the Q Money platform. With great technology comes ease and convenience. Get a glimpse of what a comfortable life is with Q Money by dialing *323# now. Call 133 for more information. Q Money, Sunu Kalpe.
I am the light goddess. Everything I touch turns into light. I am the light at the end of the tunnel, and my technology is the answer. I am the happiness in your life. I keep you connected, and I am Q Power. I am QCell. I am Sunubus. We innovate, others follow. Call 111 for more information.
Welcome back from that short break. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV this morning. And Aliu, it seems we're rounding up now with Sports Wall.
We are now joined in the studio by Adedrame for the latest in the world of sports. Mr. Ade, what's the latest?
About sports, and viewers will be pleased to know that it's not all about football this time.
Okay, it's good to know.
Football.
Exactly.
Even though I love football. I think this time, let's talk about something else. So today, the Gambia Karate Federation, they're setting off for Dakar, Senegal, for the Zapata Karate Championship. It will be the 15th edition, and I can give them a plug here. They're sponsored by the QTV News team, by the way.
Okay.
They reached out to us and asked for sponsorship. So, we've kind of helped them along their way. They're going to be there from the 17th, 18th, and 19th. And the deal was we'll sponsor them if they agree to come on this morning and tell us that they've won some medals. So,
looking forward to that.
So hopefully that. It's a team of 8, 7 men and 1 woman. And as I said, they're going off today, so we wish them a safe journey and obviously a safe return as well. So Gambia Karate Federation, we wish them well.
What does this mean for the country as far as karate is concerned? These are sports that I hardly talk about. Like you said, I mean, we mostly talk about wrestling and football. But when it comes to karate, golf and others, it's not.
Well, this is it. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why we kind of reached out to them when they contacted us and say, look, we're really struggling. We're trying to send a team of 8. Nobody's sponsoring us. We're not able to go. And if we don't get the sponsorship, we can't go. And it's a shame, really, because, they've attended previous editions before, and apparently they've done quite well. I haven't seen the results, but apparently they've done quite well. So we said, look, let's give them some encouragement. And I think, if they come back next week and tell us how they've done, I think their preparations have probably been interrupted because they've been spending so much time trying to get sponsorship rather than preparing, which is a shame, but it's over 3 days. But Ali, you're right. What does it mean? It means that we need to support other sports. We know that the whole country loves football, not just in the Gambia, it's across Africa. In any African country you can think of, football is number 1 and whatever else is second is a long way behind, never mind 3rd, 4th and 5th. So, the likes of karate, these are sports that, people can make a career out of if there's investment in them. So, we hope that this spurs people to sponsor them either next year or, to just on a sustainable basis. So there's that. And then, of course, Gambia is very good at beach volleyball. We've got several world-class beach volleyball players. And then this Sunday, it's the National Beach Volleyball Championships at Palmarima Beach. The 19th, so be there from 3 o'clock. And we should see, some really, really good clashes. Superstar duo Modungom and Sanusi Jawara of Olymp Africa, they will be there against Ibrahim Ba and Musa Bari, who will be trying to dethrone them. So that should be quite a contest and one to look forward to. So don't forget the 19th, which is this Sunday at Palmarima Beach. Be there. And then finally, I've mentioned this on Q Sports and other programs. It's the FIFA Arab Cup. Today, 15th, is the semi-final day. So you've got Qatar, the host nation. And really, it's quite ironic because just yesterday I was reading an article in Deutsche Welle, the German publication, and it was saying that the Qatar public has not taken to the competition. And then the very next day, they had the biggest football turnout ever in Qatar. 63,000 people turned up in the stadium to watch Qatar. So it's Qatar against Algeria. And then you've got North African foes, Tunisia against Egypt, both of those games today. And if anybody hasn't been watching, please watch. They're free on YouTube to watch the whole matches. All the games are live. And they're on YouTube, and people can watch.
So I saw you on Twitter or somewhere saying at first you were like, this is not something I should see, but you took it back.
And the reason I took it back was because I kind of felt that I had taken a knee-jerk reaction to condemning the competition. Because FIFA had said that it's kind of weird. I mean, 16 teams started the competition, and all of these are 16 Arab-speaking nations, and then we whittle it down now to the 4 who are in the semi-final. And I thought, why are they doing this? And of course, FIFA said they wanted to test out these stadia where the World Cup will be hosted next year. So of course, you know, there was a reasoning behind it. But I was kind of making fun of it, saying, if you're going to have an Arab-speaking Nations Cup, why not have an English-speaking Nations Cup and so on? You know, so I thought, you know what, rather than be churlish and criticize it, let me at least watch it. And I tell you, I have not been disappointed. There have been some fantastic games, fantastic skills, and I think a few stars have been born, including a guy called Rifat, who plays for Egypt. He hadn't played for 8 years, and then they chose him for this tournament, and I mentioned again on Q Sports, he came on in 2 games, he scored twice. And he's now hopefully going to be in the AFCON team. So really, really exciting.
Many times we talk about the importance of hosting such tournaments. I mean, if there's one country in the world that has really made best use of sports, it's Qatar. Most of its development is as a result of this huge competition that they host. The World Cup is coming. Previously, you know, they hosted the athletics and all that. I think.
Well, this and you know, Qatar doesn't even have a league to speak of. So when they won the World Cup, there were a lot of criticism, a lot of suspicion. I mean, let's be honest. You know, how did a country which doesn't even have a football league get to host the World Cup? You know, and what they've been doing, and this is kind of bearing fruit, pardon me, in this competition, is that they scouted different African countries. So some of their players are originally Somali players from Djibouti, from Kenya, and so on, to kind of naturalize them as Qatari citizens. Over the last 8 years, you know, since they were awarded the World Cup, they've been trying to build. They'd had a few failures, but then they won the Asian Cup. You know, they beat the likes of Japan, beat the likes of Korea, which was unthinkable a few years ago. So they're building a really good team. Nobody says they're going to win the World Cup, but nonetheless, you know, what they've shown is that this is kind of taking shape, and they're not going to be disgraced come the World Cup.
And they have one of the best sporting facilities around the world.
Oh, I mean, in terms of
you've got to Aspire Academy, you've seen the World Cup. I mean, the stadiums.
I mean, the stadiums that have been built for this.
They have good infrastructure.
Unbelievable, some of the best in the world. In fact, one of the indoor arenas that they were using to train their national team this week was voted the best in the world.
Wow.
So, you know, that's the kind of thing that they've been. So they spent a lot of money, and the competition has been a huge success. Crowds have turned out, and now we have these crucial games today. As I said, Tunisia, Algeria, traditional North African foes. But Qatar and, you know...
so I'm afraid that is all we have time for.
What a
but
pity.
Looking forward to that game.
Very much so.
You know, looking forward. And it's good that they didn't disappoint you at the end.
They did not disappoint.
So viewers, I'm afraid that is all we have time for. One Stop Water Solution. Aliu, you should stop by One Stop Water Solution. Get a dispenser or get a tank, you know. And take it to Jara. Take it to Jara.
We have it in Jara.
No, tank. Yen sen quality ndox bi in Jara. Mba baxna.
No, baxna.
Demal Jara nga yóbbu fa benn tank there. So just, I'm afraid that is all we have time for. Bye for now.